Welcome to week 3 of the CPL. We're going to be doing the B team matches between Team Beast and Team Scientology Vessel. I believe there was one walkover, so we're going to be doing 3 different series. Team Beast is your team, right, Shoop?
Yes, it is. So I'm pretty excited to watch these games. I've played a fair bit with my B teamers, so I'm pretty familiar with their skill level. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up against the rest of the people in the league.
Okay. Well, we got the first game up here. First map, Neo Aztec. So why don't we jump into the game here? I believe the first one here is a PVT.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, so over on the left side here, we have the red Terran. I believe you said it was medyas? Medyas?
Yeah, so Medyas is on my team, and he told us that that's how you pronounce his name. Like, if he hadn't told me, I would have called him Medyas all day, so.
Yeah, medyas. Okay. And then on the right-hand side, we have the tan Protoss, Vikseven. So I know Vikseven's played, I think probably both the first and second week. I think this is the Terran's first game though.
Yeah, I think Beast has been trying to set up the lineup so that every other week all of our players get fielded at least once. So that way we try to be as fair as possible. And I think it's motivating for the players to know that they get a chance to put their practice to the test.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's what it's about here, the CPL, right? Like getting the chance to play and improving on your skills. So it's good that everyone gets a chance to play.
So I'm pretty excited to see what both of these players do. On this map, I would assume Protoss they're more likely to go for 2-gate builds just because of the high ground that Terran has to defend. But we'll see what the players do.
Yeah, this is definitely a good map PVT for Protoss to do something a little more aggressive because of the high ground or low ground main. You can kind of abuse that terrain a little bit. We'll see. So far, it looks like Vikseven's opening pretty standard. I mean, he's getting his gate, he's getting his gas.
Yeah, pretty standard stuff so far. None of the players cheese or anything like that, which is good. And worth pointing out, I like how Medyas put the barracks to the left of the depot. Sometimes it can get kind of confusing and you put it to the right side and then Zealots come and kick your butt. So props to him for doing that right.
Yeah, so here like Marines can walk through between the barracks and the supply depot and Zealots can't. So you can use that if there's any early Zealot pressure to kind of micro away from the Zealot and avoid getting hit. Well, killing the Zealot.
Yeah, so it's just a convenient alternative. Some Terran players, they'll just wall off their ramp. In this particular case, it's not really reliable to do that, and it's not a good idea. So having this sort of SimCity is a really nice defensive measure, for sure.
So, I don't know, like, Medyas is already ahead by a few supply, and there is a Dragoon building, so I'm wondering if Vikseven missed a couple of probes, maybe. And now Medyas stopped for a second. Okay, he's making another SCV now. Generally, early on, unless you're doing something very specific, you want to continually make workers as possible. Like,
yeah, seeing your Nexus stop blinking, especially at 3-4 minutes, that's a really bad sign, because you're really hampering the amount of units and economy that you could be having if you were constantly producing probes and having them mine. Yeah, so it is kind of a big deal, and it can snowball.
Yeah, something to take note of. Like, just set up a hotkey and just practice that. Making a probe every time you hear the probe sound of another one being done. It'll go a long way for helping your macro. Looks pretty standard. It looks like he's sending out his first Dragoon, and range is almost halfway done.
So interesting enough, there's only a few Marines here. There's nothing really stopping this Dragoon from kind of walking into the Terran's base and maybe taking a peek at the units. seeing if there's perhaps a second factory. But Vikseven is not moving in with his goon? Okay, he is.
Right, he just killed the scouting SCV too, so medyas won't know too much about what's going on. Okay, and Vikseven's throwing down Nexus expand right now.
So pretty standard stuff from both our players. Oh, something interesting. Okay, so obviously, let's see. Okay, so the Dragoon does get forced out of the base. Typically, you see Terrans, if they don't feel comfortable placing their command center too far up, they'll build it on the low ground or in their main. But this CC might be unreasonably far from where it has to land. I don't know. I think you could have built it closer to the ramp or something so you can lift it straight over. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. It just seems really far, unnecessarily far.
That's true. That's quite a way to float it. I mean, I think we know someone else who does that, but you kind of want to build it closer, I would think, just so you can land it sooner, start mining and using it right away. These Dragoons are getting off like a bunch of free shots on this factory.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Terran waited until he had 2 tanks before he, forced these Dragoons back, but he's not even using the second tank. Medyas, please. He could have forced the Dragoons back a lot earlier, I think. But, it is what it is. And the Dragoon pressure was blocked. And he's able to set up his command center safely.
Alright, the Nexus just finished up for Vikseven as well. Okay, he's just now transferring some probes, so that's good. Drawing down a second gateway.
Yeah,
Usually,
so I think there might be... interesting. From what I can tell, Vikseven's gates are kind of late. It's 6 minutes, and usually if you're doing a fast, like 28 Nexus type build, you want to be adding 2 extra gateways, so you have 3 total. I mean, somewhere earlier than 6 minutes, I think. This is a bit slow.
Yeah, agreed. He's getting obs out. I mean, instead of a third gateway, you can also go for a Reaver. But it doesn't look like Vikseven's doing that. He's just going for obs, so I would like to see another gateway. Yeah, exactly. So, it looks like he's gearing up to take a fast third as well. He's got his probe over here by the mirror only.
Yeah, and something worth pointing out, especially for the B-teamer games, if you compare the saturation for a Protoss player with the saturation... Let's see if I can close this. The saturation for the Protoss does seem a lot worse than the Terrans, right? So in that regard, the longer the game goes on, like the player that can make more SCVs or more workers more consistently, they're just gonna have a bigger army quicker, right? So just judging by that alone, it seems like Medyas might be having the advantage this game.
Yeah. So the first ob is out and sees like Terran's got his expansion up. Sees there's a couple units out front. Can't really attack into this with the army he has. I would like to see him float another obs into the Terran's base, see what the factory count is, or see if the Terran's going for a fast third CC, see if the Terran's going for a starport, for some drops or something.
Yeah, I do want to point out then, I'm going to zoom out for a bit real quick, but the Terran player placed turrets in his main. It's just the placement of these turrets, I think, is suboptimal. He wants to put them closer to the edge. That way, he can deny any potential observers or shuttles from coming in. Because in this case, if a Reaver were to kind of fly in, it can get in. These turrets aren't going to stop it, They're too close to his mineral line. Like, the shuttle's just going to fly in, land somewhere around here, and it won't die. Or at least without dropping the units.
Alright, Vikseven's third next is up. He hasn't transferred any probes over there, and I don't mind taking this third base, especially in PvT, because you don't need a lot of gas as Protoss in this matchup. Most of your money is going to be going into Zealots and Dragoons early on.
Yeah, that makes sense, but if you want to be teching quickly to Arbiters, I think it's pretty important you take a third gas at some point. But I guess...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. At this point in time, it's not too crucial. I mean, honestly though, taking this 6 o'clock position, I'm not sure is the best idea. It might be too easy for the Terran to just come and siege it, right? Like Terran moves down this ramp, they move their army, siege it around here, and then once they kill 6 o'clock, they just push to the net, right?
Based on these positions, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like 6 o'clock might not have been the best place to expand for our Protoss player, but I would have liked him to expand somewhere at like 3 o'clock maybe. It's a little farther from the Terran, and, you know, say the Terran does move to this area, they still have to go up this ramp if they want to attack any of these bases. So, something to keep in mind.
So, looks like Protoss is just starting Zealot leg speed. Always a good upgrade to have in this matchup. I mean, get those Zealots on top of the tanks as soon as possible.
Ooh,
we have
some vultures harassing all the probes at the 6.
Oh, this is unfortunate. What you want to do is Protoss to kind of avoid this is build pylon walls to stop it, or have some Dragoons already in place, ready to get these vultures when they come in.
I mean, some of these vultures could have been running out. Yeah, they're... Oh, wait.
Ooh,
I mean, hey, those mines got some goon kills, so that actually paid off really nicely for him. I think it was like 7 vultures, killed all the probes at the 6 o'clock, and killed like 2-3 goons.
Yeah. So a bit unfortunate for Vikseven. Like, he lost a lot of probes. That hurts. I mean, you can see the supplies are pretty much even. And at this point of the game, you want to be a bit ahead as Protoss. If it's even, you're probably behind. Because we can see Terran's now saturating, getting up his 3rd base. So the fact that they're both on 3 bases and Terran's actually mining more, has more SCVs, I think I like his position a lot better here.
Yeah, so it was really nice. The CC was already placed and built here as the vultures were harassing about a minute ago. So as he's putting on pressure on the map, he's using the opportunity to kind of expand behind it. So that's a really nice sort of tactic you could be applying to all your games, regardless of your race. As you're being aggressive and attacking your opponent, you can use that time to be aggressive. And wait a second, what is this? I just noticed Vikseven's placement of his tech buildings.
Yeah, I was about to mention that too.
Ridiculous. What?
Like, he's got a Stargate and a Templar Archives, like, just way out here.
I mean, he's building his Stargate, the Templar Archives, Citadel, the Forge, right at his net. If Terran ever decides to push out, all this tech is like gone. If Terran ever reaches this area, which isn't unlikely at all.
Yeah.
Don't know if I agree with it.
I would like to have seen that in the main somewhere.
Yeah, there's so much space for him to be using, you know, below his Nexus, below the gates. So much space he'd be using. And honestly, I think this might be a pretty good place to hide, like, carrier tech even. At the very, very corner of the map, Snipe.
So it looks like Terran's just scouting around with a couple of vultures, looking to see if Protoss took any bases, and Protoss is taking a 4th base. But again, it's like really close to the Terran now. He's expanding toward Terran. And that's generally not as good. It just makes it easier for Terran to push you.
Yeah, you don't want to be taking bases that... essentially, if Terran were to attack your main, he could also stop and just attack all these bases on the way, which you don't want. Ideally, you want to have it so that Terran has to kind of move his clunky army around all over the map to be able to kill your expansions. But in this case, you're kind of helping him by expanding closer to him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, the Terran army is pretty slow and not as mobile as the Protoss army in this match. So, like, the further away your bases are, the harder that is for Terran. Like, if they have to go all the way to the top of the map to push, you can still continue making units and mining at the bottom of the map, or vice versa. We do see Protoss is making their first Arbiter.
Yeah, it's at a pretty reasonable time. Actually, it's 13 minutes, and the first Arbiter isn't even out yet. That might be a bit slow of a timing, actually.
It looks like they're also getting Arb energy first.
Wait, before Stasis or Recall?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely confused on that one. You want to be upgrading your Stasis first, pretty much no matter what. There's no reason for you to be getting Arbiter energy, extra Arbiter energy, when you have no spells to use it on. Maybe we're wrong and he upgraded the spells quicker. But
Yeah, I'm not. But I mean, then the Arbiter probably should have been started ahead of time or
yeah,
earlier.
I'm pretty sure at 14 minutes you don't need Arbiter energy. That might be just a mistake there.
We do see he has a general idea about the pylon walls. Like at the 4th, he's got a cannon behind a pylon wall here.
Yeah, but
I'm not sure.
look
Like
at this. I think Vultures can still run in.
I was about to say, but I think Vultures might still be able to run in there.
Yeah, that doesn't look tight to me.
And if that's the case, I mean, they can just run behind the minerals and kill all the probes. He's adding a second cannon there now.
Yeah, so I feel, if I was in the Protoss' shoes right now, I would feel a bit uncomfortable. The Terran basically was able to take all of these bases for free. And it's pretty much a situation where the Terran's going to be able to max up for free. And if he pushes out and you're not ready with your stasis, you're not ready with your speed zealots or units in a shuttle, Protoss will be in a lot of trouble if they're not ready to deal with what Terran has.
And we can see Terran is playing aware of like recalls. He's got a vessel here set ready to like EMP an Arbiter coming into his base. He's got mines in his base. He's got like a turret ring going around here. He's playing very aware that, you know, a recall could come and ruin his day.
Now, he does have a ton of mines in one corner of his base. The thing is, though, I don't think you need this much. Half of these mines probably could have been placed at the bottom of his base as well, because there's actually a hole in his defense. Like, if the depots were to get recalled, I mean, these mines are completely useless. So that's something to keep in mind. And I'm sure as Terran players out there, I would imagine medyas would have been super tilted if after all of his mine prep, an Arbiter just flies in from, you know, this like a different angle. And
yeah. He's adding in some more turrets now. Really afraid of a recall. Sure, he knows the Arbiters are coming. Oh, we have a fleet beacon up now for Protoss too.
Oh.
Kind of at the 3rd base.
Okay, so interesting enough, that corner that we were talking about, that I suggested earlier, the Protoss could use to build, you know, hide his tech. He's adding additional gateways, and that brings up something I want to talk about. Generally speaking, I'm noticing here with Vikseven that his gateways are sort of spread out all over his base. And in general, you want to be as efficient as possible with your macro. Try to fit as many production buildings as you can in one screen. So that way you don't have to, as you're macroing from your gates, you're not like scrolling down, clicking, macroing. Try to have it like all in one, you know, nice area. You don't want to be blocking your gates, but yeah, having to
make it faster.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a bit inefficient for me.
We can notice both players are maxing out now, and actually the Terran maxed out a little bit quicker than Protoss. Generally, if you're on top of your macros, Protoss, you can max out by or before 13 minutes if there's no like other action going on in the game, you know, harass and everything. So
oh my goodness, oh my goodness.
Slow. Oh.
Whew. Yeah, so before any fights actually happened, the Protoss took pretty significant damage to their units just by walking through mines. So before the fight even started, you know, Terran gets a bunch of free pot shots off on the units, which is good by the Terran that he was prepared and had those mines there at the time.
Also, Vikseven has like a lot of Dragoons in this army, and it looks like not very many Zealots. So I'd like to see like some more Zealots in that unit composition.
Yeah, generally
because
speaking,
they do well against tanks.
I think the rule of thumb with your Dragoon count, you only want 2 control groups of Dragoons. They'll be doing your damage. Well, the Zealots actually. But yeah, all of your other supplies should be invested in speed lots, Arbiters, High Templars, shuttles, that sort of thing. More goons is not going to be what you want.
So we have 2 carriers out in this army now as well,
And
just starting to build their interceptors. A couple of Arbiters. I mean, he has 3 Goliaths, so maybe he knows carriers. I don't know. That's not really enough Goliaths to deal with what he's got, but at the same time, Protoss can't really attack into this because it's a very entrenched tank line. Like, there's a lot of tanks here.
Oh, there's actually a drop going on at this the base at 7 o'clock, but
nice.
medyas didn't pay attention to it, so every single unit in the dropship died to cannons.
Okay, we have stasis here on the front tanks. The Protoss is engaging.
Very nice. From this angle, it looks good.
I mean, again, most of his army here is Dragoons, and most of Medyas' army is tanks. Usually that's not what you want. Like, you want enough Zealots that they could be on top of these tanks. The tanks are hitting the Zealots and getting splash damage on other tanks.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, so as you can see, like, Vikseven just lost a whole bunch of army there, and Medyas still has a ton of tanks.
Yeah, so both players were maxed before the fight, but yeah, oh my goodness. That was a really, really rough engagement. So what you were saying earlier, Snipe, I think in PvT, it's, you know, generally acknowledged that what's doing damage to the Terran army usually is your speed lots, not the Dragoons. I think the speed lots are going up and having other tanks splash the Zealots, right? And
yeah,
that
it's like
a ton of
damage. A lot of the damage to the Terran army comes from the Terran army, like tanks hitting your Zealots and then doing damage to other tanks around them. They're almost like, I don't know, go in and kill me so you can kill yourselves. I don't know. It's kind of weird. But if he had, like, I don't know, a bunch more speed Zealots with that army, he would have done a lot better, I think. And with the stasis, if he could have stasis the back tanks instead of the front tanks, he could have also done better. Like, the front tanks kind of got in his way a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Ideally, you want to be able to, exactly, as you said, Snipe, you want to be stasising yourself in the back, because otherwise, you're effectively making a wall for your own units, and they're getting blocked by the group of stuff that you stasised as you're attacking in.
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, but like by the time your Dragoons get to the back tanks, they're gonna have taken an extra shot or two from the tanks further back by the time the Dragoons are getting range to actually attack them.
Yeah, so there was an AFK carrier that just got taken down. I also want to point out for our Protoss player, he has a bunch of bases that he took on the right side of the map. But if you think about it, none of them are actually mining. I mean, you know, the mining here is pretty poor. So it's one thing to be taking bases, but you also want to be spending some time making sure that you're sending your workers to actually mine at these bases. Otherwise, they're kind of not as good of an investment.
They're not really doing anything for you. Yeah. I mean, he's got the right idea. You know, you want to take a bunch of bases as Protoss against Terran. You do want to get some gateways up in another location as well. Because, like, if Terran gets this big maxed army that's so hard to kill and pushes up on your main and kind of even just contains you, you can't, like, get units out on the map and there's nothing you can really do to break it down. You need gateways at other parts of the map.
So at one point in time, it would have been really nice if Vikseven had been able to take the other main, because then it has enough space for him to be able to build another 10, 12 gateways. Exactly, so that if ever Terran pushes too far up and these gateways become compromised, you can still macro from a safe location. Exactly.
Yeah, or you can even more easily set up flanks. Like, you can have units from the top base and from your side base here just flank the Terran army, which is also good if you can set up a flank around a Terran army. Seeing as the splash damage will not be as concentrated on your main army, or if you shoot, send it all in one group, all the splash damage is going to hit everything around from all the tanks. Right?
I think something I would have liked to have seen from our Protoss player, he went for, I believe, 2 Arbiters before switching into carriers. And it would have been nice to see, as soon as he got his first Arbiter, maybe he goes for an attack, maybe he tries to go for a recall at 150 energy. Because I think at one point he did have a chance to maybe recall the third base, try to recall the main, there's no mines over here. And it could have bought him some time to be able to expand and take the rest of the map.
Yeah, it looks like Protoss is losing a couple bases too, on the right side of the map, right top side of the map here. I don't know if there's much he can do at this point. I mean, Terran has almost 100 supply more. He's controlling the middle of the map. He's got all these tanks and Goliaths.
Yeah, it's a max 3-3 army. Yeah, Vikseven's asking for the supply.
I think we'll probably see him to tap out, maybe. Like, this is just a bad spot for Protoss.
Medyas is wondering what's going on.
A little bit. Yeah. 1 minute. Oh. Okay, and then GG's called.
Yeah, so Vikseven kind of realized his situation. 120 supply, not that strong of an economy, so he kind of just taps out. Yeah, and not much you can do in that situation. The Terran got too big, too strong, too quickly.
All right, so we have medyas taking the first game from Team Beast. We're away. So see if Vikseven can bring it back for the second game.
Yeah, I liked how medyas played that. He was very patient. So, if you kind of look at that game, it didn't look like he overextended at all. He kind of safely took 3 bases. He harassed with his vultures a bit. And, I guess he kind of moved out and he camped in the middle of the map. And he waited for Protoss to kind of attack into him, where he was able to have a pretty favorable engagement.
Yeah. Generally, as Terran, you want to be set up when Protoss attacks into you, and the other side, Protoss, you don't really want to attack into a Terran that's already sieged up, set up, unless you get some good stasis or a good surround off, because the Terran army is just a lot stronger than the Protoss army.
Yeah, I think that's the number one rule of PvT, at least for 1800 players like me and you, Snipe, is never really try to attack a maxed out Terran army head on if you're a Protoss player. It's probably not going to end well unless you're really confident in your stasis, you're really confident in how well you spread your units, how well you can control your zealots too, so that they can kind of run into the tanks and soak up a lot of tank shots. I think opportunities really, maybe try to go for recalls when you see the Terran move out. That's a really good opportunity. And if you notice Terran is unsieged with their tanks, you could try to go for a Hail Mary attack and hope they don't siege in time. That's also another chance.
Exactly.
Yeah, but ready to jump into game 2, Snipe?
Yeah, so our second game here, it's on Crossing Field. Bit of a different map. It was used in ASL, I believe, last season.
Yeah, this is a pretty weird map. I think because of the nature of it, it does allow for really, really economically greedy games. You have really easy access to an expansion, and because of the distances the units can have to travel and they have to go up ramps and whatnot, it makes it pretty difficult to or it makes it easy for you to get away with economic builds.
Yeah, it should also be noted that the back base that you could kind of take for free has slightly less I think the geyser only has 2,000 gas or something. So that is something to keep in mind as well. It won't last as long as a normal geyser. But it's pretty safe and easy to take in most situations. So let's see if either of our players here will take advantage of that. Let's see. So we have our red Terran, medyas, on the left side of the map here, who is now up 1-0 over our purple Protoss this time, Vikseven, on the right side of the map.
Yes, very, very lucky color, the purple Protoss.
Yeah, the rumors of the purple Protoss. Always been. All right. Well, we'll see if what the players decide to do. We're seeing a gateway on 9.
Yeah, that's
Vikseven.
A bit early. I'm pretty sure the standard build is you want to be making 10 gateway. So
yeah. Yeah, well, we noticed he had to cut probe for that too. So maybe he did that last game, and that's why he was lower probes.
Interesting.
And he's getting his gas on 10, well, no probes making as well.
Yeah, that's really, really bad. Anytime you're stopping probe production, I mean, that's just, you're making your econ that much worse, and your ability to make units that much worse.
In this case, you're just hurting yourself by not making the probes.
Yeah, so gateway, for the standard PvT build, you want to be building gateway, gas, core, all that stuff. But with constant probe production, your Nexus should always be spinning. As soon as your probe is 80% done, it's right here, queue up another one. It'll really, really take you a long way in terms of improving how much units you can get out at a certain time, etc.
Yeah, and we saw him put down his cyber core at 11 supply. Normally that'd be going down at 13 or some cases even 14 supply if you're playing standard. So that's already 2 to 3 probes he's missing. which, I mean, especially early on, that hurts you quite a bit.
Yeah, so it looks like Terran has about 11 SCVs mining minerals compared to the, I think, 8 for our Protoss. So already there's a difference in 3 workers mining, which can be huge.
Oh, definitely. Like, already putting yourself behind there. He's got his first Dragoon started. We don't see any Dragoon range on the way yet. We'll have to see if he's going to go for some Dragoon range here. I imagine he will again.
Yeah, so despite what I was talking about, you know, it being easy if players wanted to go for, I don't know, gateway first, zealot pressure, into like a Nexus, or 11 Nex, 14 CC even. Both players are just playing very standard builds. Not really going for anything too crazy economically or aggressive.
So yeah, we do see Terran going for the CC now. Looks like Terran is opting to take the natural expand, the one just outside with more gas and minerals.
Yeah, I thought it was standard to always take the back natural. I mean, I guess if he goes siege expand and he can hold it, why not take this base and this base at the same time? That might be a good idea as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's not bad. You can save the back base for later. It's just like taking a normal natural. There is a couple more angles and maybe a little wider choke than most other maps.
Yeah,
You have
so
to be wary of, but
well, despite me trying to reason what Medyas was thinking, he actually just confessed that he had no idea the base was there, or he forgot about it. So that's why he didn't take it first.
Okay.
So, plus points for being honest with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's just a part of like learning and practicing the maps before your games. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with taking this base if you're able to defend it and saving the back base for later if it's part of your strategy.
Yeah, I want to point out again, somehow well, not somehow, I'm pretty sure the reason is due to more consistent probe production or worker production. The Terran was able to make SCVs at a more consistent rate, and, you know, the supply shows. Protoss in general in this matchup, they should be up supply. At this time, maybe up 5 supply, 10 supply. But yeah, being behind in supply versus a Terran is not a good position for you to be in. You want to be able to stay ahead in terms of supply because your units aren't as OP.
Protoss is killing this egg out front in their natural. Don't know if there's any real reason to do that, but it kind of helps you set up a wall.
Yeah, maybe this isn't like eggs, you know.
Maybe.
They're not allowed to do this on those maps.
We do see that the Protoss is taking this back base though.
Oh, just noticed now. Okay.
Going a Reaver as well.
Yeah, so he's going for a speed shuttle. Yeah, the speed's about halfway done. I have never seen someone go for okay, hold up. He went for Reaver first. I don't think that's ideal because as your robotics facility is done, you can just build a shuttle while the support bay is building. So when the support bay finishes, you build your Reaver. But he kind of he delayed it by building the Reaver first and then a shuttle.
Yeah, so all that means really is like the Reaver's just going to be later. It's going to give the Terran more time to prepare. Oh, and we see Terran's now floating that command center actually all the way to the back base, I think.
What? Why? Oh my goodness, Medyas, what? Just build another one. I mean, at this point, he doesn't know this, but if he has 3 tanks and a bunker, or 2 tanks and a bunker, he'll be able to hold off these 3 Dragoons, no problem. Yeah, so he's kind of, he's doing the same thing as the first game, because I think the first game he built a CC pretty far from the net, and he had to lift it a long distance. But I think he heard us and he wanted to prove us wrong, so he made the distance even longer. Nice.
Bit unfortunate. I mean, it takes a while flying it all the way there.
And then this turret by the mineral line is, like I said in the previous game, you don't want a turret here because by the time a shuttle has reached a place...
Reaper's dead.
Oh, what? I missed it. Where'd it go?
Shuttle flew in at the expansion of Terran there, and the two turrets shot it down.
Oh,
The Reaver dropped down, got killed by the tank.
I apologize for missing that, guys. But what I was saying was, having turrets right here, it's really ineffective. You want to be building it on the outer rim of your base to stop stuff from flying in. Because by the time something flies into this region, it's too late. That was my point. But yeah, so if Vikseven lost his first shuttle with the Reaver inside that quickly, that is really bad for him. Because he's kind of hoping to be able to do some good damage to the Terran so that he can expand safely behind it and keep Terran in the base.
Yeah, now one thing I do want to mention about the turret placement that you were going on about, if it is Dark Templar, I believe the Terran actually wants it closer to like their mineral line or their production to protect it from the DTs, so the DTs don't just have free reign over the mineral line if they do get in. But that comes down to scouting. Like you have to know it's DTs coming to do that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point, Snipe. I didn't think about that.
No.
But yeah, I guess in that case, I can see some value in this turret. But even then, having it below the gas instead of all the way to the left of the mineral is still kind of weird placement for me.
Yeah. Like, generally you want the turrets on the outside if it's a Reaver. So, like, if the Reaver gets in, it can't get out or whatever. Or it just can't get in.
Mm-hmm.
But if the DTs do get in, you want the turrets kind of around your mineral line or around your production so the DTs just can't kill them for free.
Yeah.
So, just something to take note of.
Okay, this is really interesting. I just noticed that medyas rebuilt a third CC here. But, I mean, at this point in time, he can just push down his ramp, kind of secure this location with tanks, build a turret, build a depot or something, turret depot. And he can be mining safely from this third base. I'm not sure why he's not doing that yet.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. He probably doesn't have good scouting information on the Protoss at this point. But we can still see he's like even supply. So Protoss is behind. A lot of that is due to the fact that he hasn't made probes as consistently.
Yeah, and also I want to point out that 10 minutes in the game, having just your 4th gateway finished now is a really, really slow gateway, like a really slow timing to have your gateways. You want to be having like 8 gateways at this point in time at least. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to match up with the Terran production. Yeah, so it's a bit rough.
Yeah, as Protoss by this point, you could have like your 4th base up. You could have some Arbiter tech up. You could have well over 100 supply.
And I am not sure about this 4th base as well. I think the natural 4th base for a Protoss, you want to be taking it somewhere up here at the what is this, the 1 o'clock position?
Yeah.
But interesting.
Yeah, maybe he just doesn't know about the base there. Again, like it could just be lack of map preparation or something, or maybe he's trying to take a hidden base.
Which I do understand.
Yeah. It's possible. So let's see.
So it looks like a really kind of sort of no rush 15 sort of game. Both of the players have decided to not really put any pressure on the opponent. Instead, they've chosen to just expand pretty aggressively. So Terran's taking their 3rd base at around 11 minutes, with Protoss taking their 4th at about the same time.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's shaping up to be what would be considered a standard PvT anyway. Looks like Vikseven is now just throwing down the Arbiter Tribunal now, so we're going to see some more arbs. Oh, and a fleet beacon at the same time. I'm not sure about that.
Is it because he saw Snow versus Flash recently, and Snow went for Arbiters into Carriers? Maybe that's what influenced his build? Or were these games played before that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know exactly when they were played, but either way, like unless you know exactly the build for that, I wouldn't really recommend it. Like, just do one or the other.
Yeah, generally as a rule of thumb, I mean, obviously, at a more basic level, it's better to not be wishy-washy. If you're going to go for Arbiters, just make a bunch of Arbiters. Or if you want to go Carriers, dedicate to Carriers. Because otherwise, I don't know, it might not be that effective, especially if you're just going to build an Arbiter and not be offensive with it, or build carriers and not be aggressive with them either. Because then it's kind of defeating the purpose
Yeah,
of making those
exactly.
units.
Yeah, exactly. Just this middle of the road kind of build. It's like you're not really committing to one or the other, so you're not really going to have enough of either of them to be effective.
Right. Yeah, because last game, Vikseven had what, like 3 carriers? And to be honest, 3 carries is not that scary. The Terran sees that, they make 1 round of Goliaths from their factories, and there goes your carrier pressure.
Especially if your carriers are like out in the open, like we saw in last game. Carriers work best if they're like over cliffs or areas that Goliaths can't walk to very easily or have a hard time getting to. So like this map is actually pretty good for
Whoa.
carriers.
So I'm just realizing now, Vikseven is taking the base in the middle. And I have
Yeah,
never, ever seen anybody take this base. I didn't
no.
even realize that, this base was here.
Yeah, these bases you rarely see get used. Um, I'm gonna go again with the fact that maybe he just doesn't know the map and doesn't know that that top base is up there.
Yeah, because at this point, if Terran moves out to attack Protoss, they're going to see this and they're going to kill this. So you don't want to be placing your expansions in the path that Terran will take if they want to attack you, right? You want to be expanding farther away from the Terran, you know?
Especially like in
Where is
this
it?
place, like you can see how close this base is to this high ground area, and I mean Terran can just siege up on this high ground area and trade so efficiently. Since attacking from low ground to high ground, there's a 50% miss chance, something like that. So like if the Terran just sieges up there, he can kill off this Nexus, and the Protoss tries to attack into it, he's just gonna lose all his army very inefficiently.
Yeah. So, the macro definitely could be a lot better from both our players. It's 14 minutes, and in a standard game, both of the players honestly should be maxed by now. This 15 minutes is the time Terran wants to be pushing out with a 2-1 army that's maxed. So far the upgrades at this point are just 1-1 for our Terran and 1-0 for the Protoss. So yeah, the macro definitely could be improved on by both our players. Especially Medyas' money has gotten a bit high.
Yeah, like if
mm,
you convert all that money into units, like you're like maxed, right?
yeah,
You think
definitely.
about it, so
I mean, that's what is that like? Oh, geez, like 18 tanks or something like that. If all this money was converted, yeah.
so I mean you have that, your army's just that much more powerful, that much scarier, and like honestly the Protoss couldn't do anything in this position. And it looks like he's gonna take the other middle base. Okay, maybe not.
Hmm.
Sending the probe to take the other top base, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah. So it seems
So
like he
yeah,
doesn't know about the 1 o'clock base that
yeah,
should have
he,
been his fourth
his
base,
fourth.
but now it will be his 7th base. Very nice. Lucky number 7.
If he finds it at some point.
And you never know. Maybe Terran pushes out or Protoss kills Terran in 30 seconds, and we never see him take the base.
Are there any arbiters? Any? Okay, there's one arbiter.
Where is it set?
Uh,
Oh, okay.
kind of near the net, and because he's making carriers now.
Yeah, and we pointed this out last time, but it looks like Vikseven goes for Arbiter Energy before going for Recall or Stasis, which again, I would advise not to do that. It's much more important to have your Stasis upgraded by the time Terran pushes out than having extra energy. Because
Yeah,
no one wants 150 energy on an Arbiter that has 0 spells. That is
I
one
know
of the most
there's.
useless things.
Well, I know there's a bit of confusion about it too. Like a fair number of people think energy first is good for arbiters, but no, because like the energy actually doesn't. The extra energy you get actually doesn't take effect until the upgrade is done. Like if you started the arbiter before the upgrade is done, the
Hmm.
extra energy doesn't take effect when that arbiter pops out, even if energy finishes first. So you just have an extra 50 energy that you're not going to need or use because you're going to want to use recall or stasis before you get to that point anyway. So it's much better to get the stasis first and have it ready for a Terran push out than to have that extra 50 energy or your second Arbiter to have an extra 12.5 energy when it pops.
Yeah, so somehow in the process of transferring all his probes, yeah, Vikseven no longer has that much probes mining his main. So effectively, he just stopped mining at one base.
Okay, yeah.
Interesting.
He has a bunch of idle probes too at that back expansion.
Yeah.
I mean, you could send those to his main or to another base.
Yeah, so
He's still...
it's a good thing to be paying attention to your probes. Because at this point in time, if your probes aren't mining, they're just empty supply, right? Like if these weren't alive, they could be another 12 supply for units, or they could be making your income grow that much more.
And Vikseven's taking the other middle base now.
Very nice.
I mean, again, like Terran could just put a couple of tanks on this cliff above those minerals and siege it, and Protoss would have a hard time attacking into that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's pretty easy bases for Terran to kill.
They're essentially freebies for the Terran if he ever moves out and tries to push.
But we do see Protoss is continuing to bank these carriers. He's got 5 now with 2 more on the way. And Terran doesn't have a lot of Goliaths. There's only a few Goliaths out on the map, actually. So, I mean, the longer this goes before the carriers are revealed, the scarier it's going to be. Like, if he gets a bunch of carriers and can micro them, then Terran's going to have a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that is pretty fair. The thing I would say about Terran being maxed is if they're not expecting carriers, the carriers can do a fair bit of damage because the Terran has no supply to build any Goliaths.
Yeah, and now medyas knows about the carriers.
So the Vultures have seen, and his response seems to be pushing these bases. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, yeah, he can't engage the carriers, but he's got to do some damage because Protoss right now is taking over everything.
Yeah, so it looks like there are 6 carriers over here. 7 carriers versus just 2 Goliaths. And so it looks like all these tanks are going to die for free.
And we do see he's making a bunch more Goliaths now. First, the next round, it's all Goliaths popping out, which is good. Good quick response.
So not bad from Vikseven. He was able to basically kill a ton of Terran supply, and he lost neither of these bases. Like, I don't think the mining was disturbed even at the 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, Vikseven's in a pretty good position now. I'd like to see him use these carriers to kill some bases of Terran. There's a few more Goliaths. He's got to be careful of those. Looks like he's picking them off, which is nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Vikseven is paying attention, but he does lose a carrier for free.
Losing carriers not a good thing, but he's still in a good position. I mean, that's a scary number of carriers for Terran to deal with.
Yeah, and
he should be able to take out this base.
Oh man, not a bad position at all for Vikseven because he was able to kill so many tanks for free because Terran was maxed and he hadn't produced much Goliaths. So tons of things were killed, and the entire time...
I think he just lost another carrier.
Oh. The econ is super good for Protoss, too. He's been able to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bases so far.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, carriers are nice, too, when they're comboed with some ground units to help kill the Goliaths. Like, if you had a few Dragoons and Zealots under those carriers, they could just engage the Goliaths as well and help protect the carriers, allowing them to have more rain. But as it is, this is a scary number of carriers. They can just pick off all these Goliaths.
So looks like these Goliaths do die for free. I'm not sure about medyas' position in this game anymore. The supply difference is really big, and Protoss has sort of been taking the map. He's not really mining these bases, so they're kind of not too helpful for him, but if he ever does decide to.
We had a vulture drop there at 12 o'clock, but it was killed by the cannons. So no damage done up there.
And now at 22 minutes, now probably isn't the best time to try to harass your opponent. At this point, using your APM to kind of focus on macro and army control, army positioning, that might be of higher value than just dropping a few vultures. Because you are wasting your time. Not wasting your time, but in late game, especially, you kind of have to sort of weigh your options, right? Like, you only have so much APM. What is the most effective thing you could be doing at any given point?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'm really liking Vikseven's position here. Like, it honestly feels like his game to lose as long as he doesn't. Throw away all these carriers to get a bunch of glass. Okay.
And so he doesn't lose one, but he does take a lot of damage for free. So
I would like to see him be a little more aggressive, like with these carriers. Maybe go up to 12 and try and harass like the Terran supply depots and like the back base and these floating buildings. Just whatever he can pick off.
oh,
Is
couple
rather
of
than be
Goliaths
defensive with
caught on
him.
the wrong side.
Like, he's in a really strong position right now. But if he's going to continue to be defensive with them, he's just going to give Terran a chance to do something. Like, he lost another carrier, and they all got EMP'd.
That's really nice. Being able to EMP a clump of carriers like this, you're effectively taking away a third of their HP for free. So, really nice.
Oh, all these carriers are kind of out in the open for these Goliaths, though. Like, they can pick off maybe a couple more carriers. Here goes
One might go down. One is so low.
There's two that are really low at least.
Jeez.
If you could pick those off, I mean, Vikseven, if you have a bunch of carriers like this, you want to be using them more aggressively.
Well, this is really interesting. Despite what we were saying about drops not being the best,
Yeah.
this tank drop at 12 o'clock was able to kill pretty much every single probe. Really
Yeah,
nice.
that one tank has 12 kills, the other one's got 2.
Yeah.
Now he's just sieging down the cannons up there.
So despite Protoss taking all these bases, I mean, look at where he's actually mining minerals. He has one base here. Still hasn't really started remining his main. I mean, there's like 2k worth of minerals here that he just has been ignoring. So Protoss's economy is not as strong as one would think when you're looking at all the nexuses that he has on the map, or next side.
Yeah, I mean, the Terran's kind of fighting back into this. Like, it was a position where Protoss should have won the game. But, like, the longer this goes on, the worse it's getting for Vikseven at this point. Like, he still has a lot of carriers. He's still not in a bad position. He's still got a big bank. I mean, he's still got a bunch of bases. There's another one he can take at the top of the map if he ever finds it.
Yeah, because I think the very first time carriers showed up, what could have been really nice is the 6 or 7 carriers he had at the time. Vikseven could have tried to stop mining at the 4th, right? It was like 120 supply to 180. If he had just taken out one of these bases, this one, the 7 o'clock, I think that could have swung the game in his favor and denied Terran the ability to kind of remax and build Goliaths. Because now, you know, the supply difference isn't that bad anymore. And oh my goodness, a bunch of dragoons.
Oh, he's throwing all those dragoons into these tanks.
You don't want to be doing that.
Not even going to kill one unit.
Oh my
He
goodness.
just lost, like, what was that, 10 dragoons for nothing?
Yeah, that might have been a pretty costly mistake.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at the supplies now. They're almost even in supplies again. Vikseven had this game all but wrapped up, and now, I mean, medyas is back in the game now.
Yeah, so the basic tactic you want to be doing when you're going carriers, so you make carriers to kill the tanks, or pick off tanks, pick off units, and kind of be more mobile than the Terran army. But once Terran builds a bunch of Goliaths out in the open, you want to have things like High Templar with Storm. You want to have Dragoons to be able to deal with the Goliaths. But in this case, I think... Oh my goodness. Well, screw everything I just said. The carriers do a ton of damage.
I mean, he's got a lot of carriers there. Let's see, he's got
There's at least 9 carriers. Yeah.
9 carriers on the map.
There's a whole bunch, but he's not microing them.
Oh no, he's losing. There's 2 down. Oh no. He just lost 2. Looks like he's gonna lose at least 1 more.
Yeah,
Nope,
so
maybe.
for people that are familiar with foreign Protosses, this is not Bonneth carriers. This is Dragon Pain carriers.
Oh.
They're kind of just out in the open. Oh my goodness, he's gonna lose it. Yes, you don't want to be doing this. Carriers are so precious, and they can live forever if you're microing them properly. If you're kind of weaving in and out of Goliath range, using ledges, and you know it's easier said than done. Of course, I can't use carriers to save my life, but
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, so
But
props to Vic for willing to try carriers.
yeah, I mean, this is a good map for carriers, for sure. What he should have been doing with them, though, is been more aggressive, honestly. Like, if you're watching this, once you had the carriers out on the map, and he knew it, you pushed away his push. If you had taken those carriers and started attacking, like, the top of the Terran main and his back base and everything, just killing off, you know, the CC, killing off a couple of those armories, turrets, you know, his tech, whatever you can kill off, you would have been in a much better spot.
I agree for sure.
You could have won the game for sure.
Well, because if Protoss is more aggressive and they they attack top left, as you said, it would have forced the Terran to come back. You know, Terran won't be out in the middle of the map, won't be as aggressive if they have to pull back all their units to defend or deal with your carriers.
Yeah, and if Terran's distracted by that and can't be out killing your bases, you can literally just take and mine up all the bases, and then Terran will run out of resources and won't be able to kill you. Just win the game that way too.
And despite having a decent carrier count, you know, he hasn't hit critical mass yet. This isn't 12 carriers with plus attack or anything like that. So if he's not careful with these carriers, they're just gonna die. And he does lose one. Oh my goodness.
He's lost a lot of carriers unnecessarily this game. I mean, it should also be noted, like, Terran's almost out of mining. He only has his 4th base left, and it's just about to run out. He does have another CC there up at 12. I mean, Vikseven should see this with his pylon there. If Vikseven just sent like a control group of Zealot Dragoon over there, he could kill it.
Yeah, there's some units here at his middle base that he could send up and completely deny this expansion because the tanks aren't covering it. I mean, I guess if he unsieges them, it'll be fine. Now, interestingly enough, Vikseven has pretty much used up all of his mining resources, his minerals. He has a lot of gas, but he's below in supply to the Terran player. And if he's not careful, he does use another carrier.
All he has now really are these carriers and like these middle mining bases. And
really nice control by medyas. I'm impressed. You know, he was paying attention. He was able to focus down those 2 carriers. A Terran player that had been A-moving, yeah, definitely not as likely that those 2 carriers get taken out. So that was good by him.
We see Vikseven now going to attack this top base. It's good. I mean, if he can deny this, that's no more mining for the Terran. But he's down in supply. The Terran's up in supply, right?
Yeah.
So if Terran is able to keep this base, I think Terran's just going to end up winning this game.
Yeah, that's fair. Because both of these players at this point in time have pretty much used up all their resources. The thing is, though, medyas is up 40 supply. So in that situation, definitely I would favor the Terran player.
He's got a lot of tanks and Goliaths just sitting here at the bottom of the map. Like, he can easily run and push these bases. Or like if he's allowed to keep this base, I don't think Vikseven can win.
Yeah, and there are some tanks here
earlier. He was in such a
earlier
commanding position earlier. We do see Terran is pushing forward a little bit, picking off another carrier.
Very nice.
Losing some Goliaths to the cannons. A bit unfortunate, but I mean, getting a carrier is good.
Look at this. I hear sound of a DT. Nice. Yeah,
DT
so believe it or not, the tank that was initially dropped about 5 minutes ago has 20 kills, full HP. So this was an extremely effective drop. He was able to not only kill all those probes, kill the Nexus, but it's now defending the base that he took care of. So super cost effective. And I like what the Terran's doing as well. He's abusing this high ground, and it looks like he's going to siege this position so that Protoss can't mine. Wait.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
Maybe he's just going to go down.
What is he doing?
Shit. Okay, there's a couple siege on top. I mean, at this point, there's not a lot.
So I'm just going to pan over and look at the good place tanks, and we'll ignore the black sheep tanks.
All these SCVs running across the map, getting killed by some cannons and stuff on their way.
Where did he send? He must have sent them from this base.
Yeah, sending them to go mine his new base.
Yeah,
but there's a DT in the mineral line there. And Terran doesn't see it. The DT's racking up the kills. 6, 7. Nice, very nice. Okay, he now sees the DT.
Very cool.
Tank goes up to 21 kills.
So this is a really crazy game. The supplies are so close, and carriers are really effective. There's not that much Goliaths anymore, so virtually all of these tanks right now are exposed, and they're gonna die for free.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's hard to call this game. I mean, if Vikseven can kill all this army and deny that top base, he could still win.
Yeah. So it's actually
Looks like
really
he's going
key.
off now.
I think this is a turning point in the game. If this base at 12 o'clock gets denied, yeah, Terran can lose for sure.
Oh, but another carrier goes down.
Very nice. I like what Vikseven's doing. He's he's mixing in DTs as well, which is super nice because it forces the Terran to kind of freak out and have to pay attention. You know, if you're sniping vessels and stuff, they have to be wasting time on scans. It's a pretty good concept. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. And DTs in general are pretty high damage dealers. Like, they're pretty strong. They do a lot of damage in one hit, right? So even having a couple DTs in your army to hit at the tanks.
Finally, Vikseven has crossed the middle line of the map, the imaginary boundary, and he's started to be more aggressive with his carriers. But at this point, I mean, it's more like he's sandwiched himself in between these Goliaths, and he's just gonna lose his 4 carriers.
Oh no, he's losing carriers.
Yeah, this is not what you want.
Down to 3. And they even have... Okay, they do have...
To be honest, this game could have swung in anybody's favor, but a couple things I want to point out that probably would have been able to help out our Protoss player. He never took his 4th base here. You know, so he's struggling to kind of secure these bases in the middle of the map, but I don't know. He's not taking the easy bases that he could be using.
Yeah. Oh, and he's down to 2 carriers now.
GG.
And he just taps out there. A bit unfortunate. Like Vikseven, that was definitely his game to lose. He definitely could have won that earlier on if he was just a little more aggressive with those carriers early on. But well played by medyas, taking it back, getting back into it, and securing the win for the 2-0 win for himself and for his team.
Yeah, really nice by medyas. Vikseven played well this game. It wasn't a stomp or anything like that. It was a really close game. It's just, had he denied the 12 o'clock base from Terran, and had he been able to keep mining from it and take his 4th base here, this could have very well been a different game, because it felt like he kind of ran out of steam towards the end in terms of resources.
Yeah, it was a nice game.